Hi, my name's Phil Gardner and welcome to Fun with Boxes. Today I'm taking a look at a game that I've been desperate to get hold of ever since I first found out that Roy Cannaday had designed a board game. Some of you may know Roy from the awesome Dice Tower team, and after spending so many years watching the Dice Tower here on YouTube and seeing Roy so often, to find out that he had designed his very own board game, well, it was simply a must-have game for me. And now, fast forward a few years, and finally it's currently being fulfilled across the world by GameFound. And that game, of course, is Last Light, designed, as I said, by Roy Cannaday and published by Grey Fox Games. Last Light is a fast-paced 4X game with 3D planets and a rotating board in which players play asymmetrical alien factions looking to gather the last light right before the heat death of the universe, which sounds terrifying. Okay, so two things here. First, you may not know what a 4X game is. Well, 4X games are so called because of the 4 categories of gameplay style or mechanics they all have. In a 4X game, you'll be exploring, expanding, exploiting and exterminating as you play through the game. Exploring will typically see you moving units on a map board, revealing hidden terrain and discovering things that will help you as you play. Expanding will see you claiming areas of the board and expanding the areas you control, essential to your progress within the game. Exploiting will see you using these areas to your own benefit, gaining resources, for example, to fuel your growth and plans. And finally, you will be exterminating. Nothing to do with Daleks, by the way. That is, you'll be exterminating the other players' units to gain you victory or to enable you to expand and exploit other areas on the board. And all of this is to ultimately win the game. I guess the most famous 4X game that I know is Twilight Imperium 4th edition, a huge space opera board game that will take you and your friends many hours to play. I really love this game and I've only been able to play it once as it's difficult to find the players and the time to play this brilliant game. This is something that is known to be part of the 4X experience in that the games tend to last quite a few hours because of the various mechanics and strategies available to people to win the game. And this brings me to my second point. Didn't I say a fast-paced 4X game? Surely that's not possible. Phil, you just said they can take hours to play. Well, what if I said you could play this game in under an hour? A bold statement to be sure, so I was keen to find out if Roy had actually pulled this off. A 4X game that gives you the full 4X experience, but in less than an hour? Oh wow, has Roy indeed pulled this off? Well, before we find out, let's take a Fun with Boxes look at what you get with this fascinating game that promises so much. In a game of Last Light, players take on the role of alien factions, racing to control the last light in the universe. Each turn, all players will select an action card. Then all players will reveal their action card and take the actions on their cards simultaneously. Exploring planets, mining for resources, gaining new technologies and commanding fleets, all the while racing to the centre of a rotating board to the location of the last known white dwarf star to gather light for their civilization to survive. The first player to gather 20 light will lay claim to the last light in the universe and win the game. Setting up the game is surprisingly quick and easy, and I say surprising because normally 4X games can be big beasts of a game, but with Last Light this is not the case. Each player collects the following in their chosen colour: the 5 small, 3 medium and 2 large ships, 8 extractors, 1 colony shipboard and 6 action cards, and all players have the same copies of those 6 action cards in their colour. Each player also gets a set of planetary achievement cards. They will choose one and return the others unseen to the box. 2 alien faction cards at random. They pick one and return the other to the box. And they take a graveyard card, a player board and 1 common resource. You then set up the board dependent on player count, and the rulebook provides you with full page diagrams for 2, 3 and 4 player setups. I will quickly go through the 2 player setup. Randomly place planets onto the locations shown on the relevant setup. Shuffle up the planetary exploration tokens and add them to the planets, again as shown. Place the asteroids as shown and place the player's colony ship boards. Lastly, each player places 1 small ship in their starting sector and an extractor on one of the common resource spaces on their colony ship. That's the board setup, so now we shuffle the deck of technology cards and give 1 card to each player. Place the resources, dice, damage and light tokens within easy reach of all players, and at this point players choose one of the 2 alien races to use from the cards they were dealt with earlier, and also which one of the 4 planetary achievement cards they are keeping, and then they reveal their alien faction card. Finally, the last player to look at the stars is the first player and the game begins. Gameplay. The gameplay in Last Light is straightforward, fast and, in the main, simultaneous. Each round, each player chooses an action card and then everyone reveals their chosen action for that round and performs that action. The cards played stay on the table in front of you, and on the next round everyone chooses another action card and again simultaneously reveals that card and performs the action. With little exception, everyone performs their actions all at the same time, and once everyone is finished taking their action, look to start another round of actions. And if at the end of the round one player is 20 or more light, then the game ends immediately and the player with the most light wins. Each player only has 6 action cards to use throughout the game, so at some point you will want to take the cards you have already played and put them back into your hand so that you can play them again. You do this by playing action card number 5, which is called Refresh. The Refresh card stays on the table, but you return all your previously played cards back into your hand, ready to play again in the next round. It's important to keep an eye on whether or not all players have refresh cards in front of them at the end of the round, because if that happens, that triggers a board rotation and all the refresh cards are picked back up again by the players so that they can be used in a future round. So just to clarify here, at the end of each round you are checking to see if anyone is 20 light or more, which triggers the end of the game, and to see if all players have their refresh cards in front of them, which will trigger a board rotation, and the game continues as normal following this. Let's take a closer look at each action card to see what they do. Let's start with Mine, which is action card number 2. With this action you simply collect a resource from the supply for each extractor you have on the board. That's on the planet or on your colony ship. Trade, action card number 4. With this action you can trade in the resources you have gathered or simply gain a common resource. You can perform this action twice and can perform the same action twice if you wish. And once you have finished, you must give one other player a common resource from the supply. Construct, action card 3. This card has 2 actions, the ship action on the left and the extractor action on the right. You must perform them in that order, left to right. Ships. To build ships, simply pay the resources to the supply based on the ships you wish to build, and you can build as many ships as you can afford to pay for. The built ships go into the sector where your colony ship is. Extractor. Place one extractor into an empty space on your colony ship or into a sector of a planet containing only your ships and no other previously built extractor. It is important to note that a planet is considered to be controlled by the player who has an extractor on that planet. Research, action card 1. Again, this action card has 2 actions which you must perform left to right. Research. Gain 1 light for every 4 technology cards you have in play, not in your hand. Then draw 3 technology cards, add 2 of them to your hand and discard the other card. Manufacture technologies. You can play any number of technologies by paying the resources indicated on the cards. Ship ability cards are played to the left of the ship they are modifying, and these activate whenever you roll this symbol when attacking with a ship with this modification. Each ship may only have one ability. Playing another ability card will discard the previous one you played. Ship mods are played below the ship they are modifying. These give a permanent upgrade to that ship. Small ships can have 1 mod, medium ships 2 mods, and large ships can have 3 mods. Lastly, civilization technologies are played next to the player board, and any number can be in play. If the card says to exhaust it when you use it, flip it over. You will then get to flip it back again when you perform the refresh action. And the only limit to civilization technologies is that you can never have 2 of the same name in play. Before looking at the command card, which is action card 6, let's look at the refresh card, action card 5. This again is broken into 2 halves which you must take in order. Refresh. Ready all your exhausted cards by flipping them face up. Remove all damage from your ships. Pick up all your previously played action cards, keeping the refresh card on the table. You will only be able to pick this back up once all other players have their refresh cards on the table. Finally, you take the claim action, collect 1 light from each extractor you have on a non-blockaded planet in the outer ring, and collect 2 from each extractor you have on a non-blockaded planet in the inner ring. A planet is blockaded if there are ships of a different colour to that extractor in that sector. And then the 6th and final card you can play in a round is the command card, and this is the main action that should not be played simultaneously. First, wait for all other players to play their actions and then perform the command action. If other players are also performing the command action, then each player performs this action in full, starting with the player holding the first player token and going clockwise. First, you take the move action. You may move each of your ships 1 space. All ships have a movement of 1 unless modified. You cannot move into an area with an asteroid, and you cannot move to a sector that is connected to the current sector by only a diagonal line. Then reveal and resolve any deep space exploration tokens present or planetary exploration tokens. All the actions you may take are straightforward and covered on the player aid cards. After all movement is finished, you may move to the attack action, and here all of your ships may attack even if they did not move. The ships controlled by players who did not choose the command attack do not attack. Roll attack dice sector by sector, and the player holding the first player token chooses the order, and all damage is resolved simultaneously. So a ship that takes enough damage to be destroyed will still roll attack dice before being removed from the board. But remember, ships only attack if their player played the command card that round. By default, small ships roll 1 die, medium ships roll 2 dice, and large ships roll 3 dice, though technology cards can alter this. Damage is assigned by the player rolling the dice. Dice should be rolled for all ships of the same type involved in the attack, as each ship type is likely to have different abilities as the game progresses, and you play technology cards. Place damage tokens under each ship for each hit it takes, and any ship with damage equal to its shield is placed into the graveyard of the player who assigned that damage. Extractors may be targeted, but only by ships with bombardment, and only if there are no enemy ships in that sector. Here's a quick example of combat. In this simple example, yellow has 2 small ships and red 1 small ship in this sector. So yellow will roll 2 dice, and they roll a hit and a miss. This deals 1 damage to the red small ship, and you place a red damage token underneath it. Small ships only have a shield level of 1, so that's enough to destroy the red ship, which is placed onto the yellow player's graveyard card. You can see the various combat dice results explained here, and they are very straightforward. The graveyard. When you destroy a ship or extractor, place it into your graveyard, and as soon as there are 4 units in your graveyard, you gain 1 light and return the units back to their owners. In a 2-player game, you would gain 2 light. Finally, on to board rotation. As I mentioned earlier, at the end of every individual round, you are checking to see if all players have their refresh card on the table in front of them. If they do, then you will need to rotate the inner ring by 90 degrees, then rotate the outer ring by 45 degrees, and then each player collects one light for each ship they have in the center sector with the white dwarf. Finally, everyone collects their refresh card and the first player token is passed to the next player clockwise around the table. So, does Last Light live up to its promise of a full 4X game experience played in under an hour? You better believe it, it most certainly does. And it also delivers the full 4X experience as a 2-player game too. So to me, this game really works well on all player counts. Plus, you can get the expansion to increase the player count up to a mind-melting 8 players. Good grief. Whew, that's a lot of players. We had lots of fun with 2. I can't imagine playing with 8. That is going to be super intense. But I can imagine super fun. This really was worth the wait, and I do highly recommend giving this a go, whether you are new to 4X games or whether you are a seasoned 4X player, because if you are, then you're going to love the fact that you could get multiple plays of this game into one game night, which is something pretty good. So, thanks once again for watching, and please take care. Bye for now.